G'day guys, Matt here from Not in the Manual. Tonight's video is going to be on software update 2023.12.1.1, which is what my car has got. I think now, looking here, 2023.12.5 is now going out to a lot of cars. That's just bug fixes. So we're going to go through the official release notes, and then we're going to go through some undocumented changes as well. Now my car skipped update 2023.6 for some reason. There must have been some issues with my spec car. So I've got the 2021 Model 3 with the LFP battery. It was the first Model 3 to come out with the LFP battery. So that was back right in the beginning out of the Shanghai factory. So I don't know, I think a few other guys gave me some feedback saying they hadn't had an update for a while either. So I went for over 2 months without an update, which is the longest time frame that I've ever had owning this car to go without an update. I've had 40 something updates since I had the car. So yeah, that was knowing that there were some features that I was missing out on, like service mode. That was killing me because I wanted to access that service mode. I got a little taste of it back with one of the updates last year, and then they cut it off on the next update, so they cut off access. So I'm pretty happy to have access to that. I can even look at that in my garage. I'm going to do a battery health test through that as well, and just see where my battery's sitting at. I've got another video which I'm working on still, which I should have within the next week. I'll have that edited, just on a battery health update. It's a year since I did my last one, so I thought it was about time to talk degradation and range and charging habits and things, just with a little bit more experience with the car. So anyway, let's get into the release notes. And as I said before, we've got some official release notes and then some unofficial changes, some undocumented changes to go through as well. Okay, so let's go through the official release notes here first, and then we can go through the undocumented stuff after. So there's a bit to get through, but I'll try and keep it as brief as possible and just go into detail on things that we really need to. So first up we have is text size. Now this was a big one for me because I struggle with really fine print. My vision is good enough to drive, but I really just struggle with certain combinations like E's and F's and things. Sometimes they can just overlap in my vision, and it's getting better as I get stitches taken out. I had cornea transplants. I've had cornea transplants in both eyes, and it just takes years to get your vision right. And they just keep taking the sutures out of the cornea and to try and get the shape right. So every time I have some stitches out, there's a bit of an adjustment period. And that's caused a bit of a delay in me getting some of my videos out too. I just find it really difficult. Plus I've been training for a mountain bike marathon, which I have this weekend. And I've just been pretty tired, and with the poor vision, trying to look at a small screen and edit videos has been a bit difficult. So I apologize for that, but hopefully getting stabilized vision again, and things will be easier, and I'll get this race out of the way and I'll be all good. I won't be training as hard anymore. So this text size has been amazing. It's made my driving so much easier. I can just glance at the screen and I can read things much clearer. So I've got it set to the bigger text, and that's just a matter of going into settings, display, and choosing the text size. The car will do a reboot when you change that, and then everything will be here. Now, they've done a very good job. Things aren't squashed or overlapping. You can see everything is here. I haven't found that it's cutting things off or anything like that. They have done a pretty good job with this. So for people with poor vision, this is going to be a pretty major thing. The next update is control search. So here in your controls, at the top you now have a search bar. You can search for things like, let's put text we just spoke about. Text size, standard or large. So it says here that it's under the display settings. So we can chop and change that. So This can be easier if you're struggling to find something within the settings menu. So that can be quite good. Points of interest. Now on the map, we now have some better information there when you click on the points of interest, and it's very similar to Google Map. Any of these sort of points of interest, here's the middle of Sydney, so we have the Sydney Harbour Bridge, so we can click on the Sydney Harbour Bridge. And it's going to be super slow. Okay, finally, when you go to the map, you can click on any of the points of interest here, and you then get the Google reviews, so you can scroll through those. You do get some photos. They're just not loading very fast here tonight. I'm not too sure what's going on with my internet connection, but you can see here you've got a few options there. You can navigate to it. You can call the place if there's a phone number associated with it. You can go to their website, or you can favorite this. So this is quite good. It's just like looking at Google Maps, which is what this is based on. So that's quite a good feature. Now the next one here is Speed Assist. This has come up in a previous update, and I'm not too sure why it's here again. Maybe they've made an improvement to that Speed Assist. I find Speed Assist very hit and miss. So you can be driving next to a bus with the buses here in Australia or in Sydney have big 40 kilometre an hour. Whenever a bus is pulled over with lights flashing, your speed limit is then 40 kilometres an hour past that bus while it is stopped with the lights flashing. So what the car does is it reads that sign, it sees 40, and then it thinks you're in a 40 zone, and until you get to the next speed zone sign, it stays at 40. We also have some speed signs which I've shown you in previous videos, which have 40 kilometers an hour for heavy vehicles going down a hill and 70 kilometers an hour for normal cars, and it doesn't know which one to pick. They're actually right next to each other, but it's not, the car can't understand that sign, so it sits there flicking between 70, 40, 70, 40, and it's random as to which one it picks. Also, if there are speed signs in freeway exits, so you have an exit ramp, but you're still continuing along the freeway, sometimes it will read those signs. And that's why I always have my autopilot or adaptive cruise control to set to current speed, not to pick the speed zone when you engage it. If you engage it and you're in a 100 kilometre an hour zone and it's still reading it as an 80 kilometre an hour zone, your car will just slow down to that 80 kilometers an hour very fast. So I think always leave that set to current speed. This is something I guess they've just made an improvement to. Phone call controls. When you're on a phone call now, you have the option with your left scroll wheel. I won't demonstrate it because it's pretty straightforward. You can see here there's an arrow pointing that way and an arrow pointing that way. When you move your left scroll wheel left or right, it will do what each of these things say. Push your scroll wheel to the right, it will hang up. Push your scroll wheel to the left, and it will mute the microphone. So that's pretty straightforward. You can now customize the scroll wheel. So if I hold down my left scroll wheel now, you can see here I've got mine set to chilled and standard acceleration modes. I go across the menu, push to the left, and these are the different things that you can control with the left scroll wheel. I'm a little bit disappointed with this. I don't know what I was hoping, but I think the open glove box, there's a few, possibly defrost would be handy in winter. Camera, steering wheel heater. A lot of these are pretty easy to use voice control for. Brightness, fan speed. Temperature would be good because sometimes that can be a bit fiddly here, but once again you can do that with voice control. I think this is a good thing. It's making use of that left scroll wheel now. I leave that on acceleration mode because sometimes I'm changing from chilled to standard when other people are in the car. Sometimes they're just not used to that acceleration. It can make them feel a little bit sick. So you can customize it there. That's not too complicated. That's pretty easy to set up. Gear chimes. So now when you put the car, I'm connected to the charge cable, but basically when you put it in drive or reverse, you now have a distinct chime, and it's a different one to what we had before, putting it into gear, and that's quite good, but you can turn it on and off if you don't like it. Voice recognition language. So this is a big update for us as well here in Australia. So outside of the US, people have a very difficult time with the voice recognition in the car. So unless you put on a fake American accent, the voice controls are very hit and miss. They don't work very well at all. The text messaging as well is not that great, but now it will recognize British English. Now I get corrected for my British English a lot on the channel, especially with a video I made back ages ago where I said learnt. Now learnt is a word in British English, and I got corrected on that, but the car is also trying to understand that language as well, and when it's only set to understand American English, that's quite difficult if you're not from America. So that's another really good. It will make voice recognition, voice controls a lot more usable for people outside of the US, and that's a big change there. So we've covered all of the documented changes here. Now there's a few undocumented changes with this as well. There's a few here. There's some obvious ones that we can look at right now. You can see this tire pressure screen here. The card for tire pressures now has a better animation. So it was a pretty crappy little photo there before. That's now a much better animation. They're not animation, but it's a much better graphic there. It's a clearer graphic, it just looks nicer. And above that now, when you're in park, you can swivel the car around, which is pretty cool. So when you've got the boot open, you can scroll around now. Can't see what's in it though, but I think that's pretty cool. Some of these things are pretty useless, but they're cool anyway. They just make it's a bit of an aesthetic thing. It's quite nice to be able to do that. It's all nice for the user experience anyway. So yeah, that's pretty cool. That's another undocumented change there. When you're going through the menus here and you've just updated, I can't see anything here. Okay, here we can see gear chimes. It has a label here of new next to it, which means that's a new feature. So from now on, whenever you have a software update and you're not sure what's new, you can just scroll through here and see those new labels next to a function that has either changed or is new. So those gear chimes are new. That's where you can turn them on and off. And that's another undocumented change there. I don't have the manual app. So there should be an app here. I don't think it's in theatre. That's the other undocumented change, is the theatre icons are now a nice sort of little square that sort of start looking like an app icon. And what else do we have? So just the general font. So the speedometer font, I'll put a photo overlay a photo here. The font for the speed display here, because I'm sitting here charging now, not driving, we can't really see it, but that font has changed, and I think the numbers are slightly larger and the font is a bit easier to read, and that's another thing welcomed by me as well. So for people with poor vision, that's going to be quite a good feature. Okay, this nav improvement here is another undocumented change. You can see now when you search for something and it comes up with the results, it actually shows you how far away things are. And that's nice and clear in big writing. Okay, so the next undocumented change is to do with favoriting songs. So there used to be a little love heart here. Now, if you want to make a song a favorite or a playlist a favorite, it just has a little plus sign. So you click on the plus sign and that turns to a tick, and then you can untick it. I don't know, is a tick more politically correct than a heart? I'm not sure, but they've made that change. Okay, so the next undocumented change is to do with wiper controls. Now when you press for a quick swipe of the windscreen with the button here, a quick wipe there, the card comes up for the wipers, and you can see there now that it's got a graphic there showing that you can use the left scroll wheel to change the speed. So if I press that again and get that to come up, I'm now using the left scroll wheel to scroll through the different speeds here, and I can flick it back to auto. So that's quite good, not having to look down at the screen for that. You just press the button here to do a quick wipe, and then you can use the left scroll wheel without looking away from the road. I think that's quite a good feature. That was something, because the auto wipers on this car aren't that great, it's nice to be able to flick them to manual when they're giving you a bit of grief. So now you can just adjust that speed, so that's quite a good improvement. Now with the app drawer, all of these icons come up to be able to use, so you don't have to drag them down here to use them, and you don't have to hold down on here to customize to get those icons at the top to come up. So you just press the app drawer button, and now those icons are always at the top. The charging screen has now changed. I'm pretty disappointed with this. I love that graphic. It was great. It was that little skateboard. You know, that was quite a renowned sort of EV graphic. I don't know why they've removed that. It baffles me. So I quite like that. But anyway, this little charge screen here has changed. Okay, I'll just finish off with a couple more things. Now, I mentioned before that we now have access to service mode. I'm going to do a separate video on that where I'll show you how to access that, and I'll give you a bit of a walkthrough. So there are a few changes to that I need to familiarize myself with first, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks I'll be able to do that, and we'll do a video purely on service mode. Okay, there are a couple more undocumented changes that I forgot. There's just so many to this update. So this is a website which I look at all the time, and it's a really good resource. So I'd like to take credit for the notes on the undocumented changes to these software updates, but really I'm looking at this website and reading other articles on these changes. Some of the undocumented changes I have sort of found myself anyway, and I've also noticed I've found them on here. So some of them are very obvious undocumented changes. So this one here, you can now rename your vehicle in the app. So you can see in the app here, I've named mine Not in the Manual, in case you haven't noticed that before, but you can now rename it here, so you don't have to do that in the vehicle. So that's quite a handy little thing if you like renaming it and looking at the different Easter eggs that come up with the different names. So that's one. Now, one thing I didn't mention here before was there are some improvements to automatic emergency braking. So now it works up to 200 kilometers an hour as opposed to 150. So most people won't really notice any difference there because we're not driving at those speeds. There is also limited functionality for automatic emergency braking in reverse, and I'd say that Tesla are going to improve that over time. So if you're interested in reading a bit more about that, how it was discovered, we don't really know much more than that, but someone discovered the differences within the manuals for the different software updates, that it now mentions automatic emergency braking in reverse. So feel free to jump on the Not a Tesla app website and have a read. It's a great resource. They have Tesla tips, Tesla Easter eggs, the voice commands, accessories. They talk about app updates, full self-driving updates, software updates, upcoming features. This is a really great website that I use as a good resource for information. So yeah, jump on there. I just wanted to mention that. So that's it. That's everything covered that I know about. If you guys know of anything else that I've missed here, please let me know in the comments. And I really hope I've made a worthwhile video for you for this software update. I think I've told you when I first started this channel, there's a lot of people out there doing software updates, but gradually I've sort of learnt that people like to hear me talk about the software updates. They like to hear my opinion as they've got to know me. So yeah, that's great. I'm glad that people appreciate my opinion on this stuff. And yeah, I'll catch you next video, and thanks for watching.